You're listening to the Bomber Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Bomber Podcast. This is episode 9. We're getting close to double digits, and I have brought back the Cat Osterman. Really, we brought back JC. Cat is joining JC on the podcast. She's going to chime in on her softball knowledge. But it's exciting and fun to have you back on, Cat. You've been in OKC for like what seems like weeks, but I guess it's really only been about a week. But how's that been going? Talk about that experience. And I know you've been doing all kinds of stuff with USA and AU, and so a lot of cool things. We're going to talk about them. But how's that been going in OKC?
Yeah, we got up here the afternoon right before Game 1 for Texas, and so last Thursday. It's been great. It's so fun to be up here and be around a ton of people that just love softball. The World Series has now become its own event and a bucket list item for people. Fans that just love the sport are coming to it. It's not only the fans of the 8 teams in it. And I think that's the cool part. And I think obviously I played a long time ago, so a lot has changed in that time. But, majority of the fans were just those that were in the tournament. You had a few maybe from Oklahoma, North Texas, that it's an easy drive. But now you just get so many families, and even longtime fans have been like, we've been saving up for this, or this has been on our bucket list for 10, 15 years, and it's really cool to run into those people and just see the event that this has become. I have my mom with me and she's up here for the first time since 2010, and just for her to see the stadium change, it was like night and day. I mean, again,
phenomenal.
Back when I played, down the foul lines was like a grassy hill area. It wasn't even seats yet. So you talk about adding the seats there, and then the double decker, the press box changed, all of it. So it's been fun to even hear her comments and how much it's grown, and just reflect back. That's just how much our sport has grown, and as much as everyone, I think, overlooks the difference in, I'll age myself, with the difference in 20 years. It's really crazy. So it's fun.
Nuts.
Texas winning has made it way more fun to be up here for a week.
That don't suck. Yeah, that don't suck. It's really cool to see the investment that the sport and everybody involved in OKC. I know USA Softball, it's the home, that's their stadium, and just the sport in general, the NCAA, everybody, the investment they've made in making that really the thing it is. Because if you haven't been, and I've been a handful of times, and you walk into that stadium and you see it completely full and you hear it, I mean, it's different. And adding the outfield seats was a dramatic thing. The padding in the outfield was dramatic. It just changed the feel of the venue, and it's an experience. If you haven't been there, you got to go. JC's fired up about it.
The seating's nice because we take up a row with some of the Texas people, and she gets to just walk up and down the row. So yeah, she loves the stadium. But I think you're right, and I was telling someone else the other day, with the 2020 Olympic team, we toured, and at one point we were in New York, and it happened to be the same time there was some convention of mayors, and the mayor of Oklahoma City came up and was talking to us. Say hi. Yep. The mayor of Oklahoma City was coming up, and just to see his excitement, not about meeting us, but to talk to us about the investment that the city was putting into the stadium and how they want to continue to make this grow. And I might be a minority, especially among Texas people. I don't think this World Series needs to move from here. We weren't talking about a home field advantage until the last 5-8 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's just a testament, one, to what Oklahoma and Oklahoma State have grown as far as their fan bases. But this is our home. There's not another place in our country where you can go have 13,000 fans come watch softball. And the way Oklahoma City is trying to build up around it, everything around the stadium now is I think they call it the Adventure District. You have the stadium, you have the race park, you have the zoo, you have the science museum. And sure, there aren't hotels and all that immediately right here, but they're all within a good distance. And so I think that's been cool, in the fact that the city has embraced our sport, and it's not just our sport trying to survive in one place on its own.
Well, and you know what's really cool is I hear what you're saying. There's a lot of people that complain about it being in Oklahoma City because they think OU has some sort of distinct advantage. And sure, like if you're in that stadium and OU's playing, there's a lot of people from Oklahoma that root for them, et cetera. But that's good for our sport, right? Like that, I don't care how you look at it. Like if you're getting more fans involved in OU, our sport's better because OU has been as good as they are. Everybody has been chasing them down. I think we're experiencing some teams that are getting closer, and we'll see if one has gotten closer. We're going to find out over the next few days. But I think that's a good thing. It's never bad when someone is that popular and that polarizing in such a way that it forces everybody else to make adjustments. I think it's really a cool thing.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. And, I was telling someone else, like, when I played here, OU was in our World Series, and no one was complaining about the home field advantage then. And, it's funny now, I've been a season ticket holder with Texas for the last 2 years. And, you get your notification as soon as they get to Supers that you can reserve your World Series tickets. So if you don't want it to be home field advantage, reserve your World Series tickets.
Yeah. There's no doubt.
Wait till they get there and then be like, oh, I couldn't get tickets.
Exactly.
It is what it is, but it's been really cool to be here, see the atmosphere. Always love, softball stuff. But yeah, I've been busy with a couple signings with USA Softball, and as you mentioned, the press release with Athletes Unlimited, our press conference yesterday.
It's cool. So give me your thoughts on the postseason in general, not just the World Series. I mean, what did you think? How did you think that the seeding was? What did you think? There was some challenge with the whole 16 seed A&M versus the 1 seed Texas. My opinion, that they were no 16 seed. But what are your thoughts on the postseason in general? What you thought?
Well, I think we had, obviously, I think it was like 5 supers go to game 3, which was really cool because you always want to see everyone test and push to the very limit. And, you go back to regionals, like Omaha was, one running away from possibly being a Cinderella story into a super regional and, upsetting Missouri. And so it was an exciting postseason. In terms of Texas and A&M, like, you watch it unfold. A&M was not a 16 seed. I don't think you finished where you finished in the SEC with them. I think they were 3rd, if I heard right.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense to me. And I know it goes on your full body of work, but when you're playing in that conference and finishing 3rd, like, how are you the 16 when other people are 8, 9? Obviously Tennessee being up there is because they won the conference, but and so, but at the same time, Texas having to face A&M, I think that's why we see such a sharp Texas right now, is they got very,
I do too.
In supers. And so I think the rest of the world looked at it and was like, oh, they barely squeaked in. They're not really a number 1 seed. And then the flip side, it was like, no, they're just not playing a 16 seed. And like I tell anybody, anytime it's a rivalry, it could be the 1 seed and the 64th seed, but the rivalry supersedes any rankings you give people. And so, but no, I mean, I think you see a more poised Tegan Kavan because of what she had to face last weekend. I think you see an offense that is confident and able to scratch out runs when they have to, but also put them up in big numbers when the opportunity is there because of what they faced last weekend. So that was I was there for Sunday, and oh my gosh, I was a ball of nerves.
I was there for all 3 games, and I've tried to explain it to people. Like, A&M came in, they were battle hardened from having played in the SEC. So I don't think that the environment was too big for them necessarily. I think they looked the part. The difference is because of the rivalry, no one would give in. Like, most of the time you fall down by 5, you start thinking about the next game, right? Like, you just, hey, let's don't, you start pitching off. Let's don't burn up our pitching. No one would give in. And that's why all 3 games were 1-run games. And they were fought to the bitter end. And just that atmosphere, man, they got it right in putting something cool together. But they made it really challenging because I felt bad for A&M because I think they been in a little different situation with a matchup. Not that they weren't capable of beating Texas. They obviously were close in every one of those games. But man, it would have been interesting to see them in a different regional where that doesn't have to be in part of it. That rivalry was real, and it was cool seeing it be kind of rekindled, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool to, especially knowing that we go into SEC next year with Texas and Oklahoma, and so that's starting now. I do know that they're on the schedule for next year in SEC play, so it'll be cool to see how that gets carried over now.
Well, you mentioned it, and I had it later on to talk about, but let's just talk about it. Well, how crazy is the SEC going to be now when you add these two monsters into what already is one of the toughest leagues there is? Period. It's going to be nuts.
It's going to be nuts. I've talked a few times. Obviously, not that Patty and her staff can't retool quickly like they always do, but they graduate. I think it's 9.
Yeah.
And it's 9 key pieces, so it's not just 9. And it might even be more than that. I think I lost count between trying to keep who was graduating. Where Texas, on the flip side, graduates 4, and 2 are key pieces, and then 1 relief pitcher, who obviously they're going to have to find someone that can be a lefty arm probably. But they're a little bit more poised going into the SEC with the experience, and that freshman, the Fab Five from 2 years ago are going to be juniors, and this year's freshman class, who's been phenomenal, is now going to be sophomores, and you're going into the SEC. So I think they're both poised well, but the SEC, the tough just got tougher, man. I mean, and I think the question now is going to be, they've counted when all 13 teams get in, and are all 15 teams really going to get in, or is because you add these two, are there going to be 2 or 3 now that don't get in year out, regardless of what their resume says. And so the committee is going to have a lot of hard decisions to make, I think, come the end of that. I mean, obviously everyone has to perform, but there have been times where that 13 is a question mark. And so now that 13 who's a question mark might not be even a question mark anymore. It's just
Well, and that's what's crazy is and they reference body of work so much when they get into that. I mean, that's like their catchphrase when they start trying to justify like who's this or who's that, which they've got a hard job. That committee's it's got to be tough sitting in that room figuring all that out. But man, your body of work is not the same as everybody else's body of work. If you've got to live in that environment of the SEC and play 3-game series against, you're going from Florida one week to Alabama to Texas to that's a monster environment to have to operate in. So a body of work has got a new definition in some ways in that league for sure.
Oh yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how each one adjusts their preseason. But you still have to schedule somewhat tough in preseason so that you have a body of work and a strength of schedule outside of conference. Catch people's eyes. So, if you don't schedule right, or you have adversity that's unforeseen, like you could schedule really hard to put yourself in a good position, and then really be
Yeah, just to hit the 500 threshold, just to get the 500 threshold accomplished.
Right. Well, I look at this year with Baylor, Glenn Moore scheduled the way he did. He thought he was going to have a really good roster. He had some injuries and some other adversity, and they ended up getting through it. Got to supers, obviously, but like if he's in the SEC at that point, but schedules hard in preseason, there might have been no hope for postseason with depending on how it works. So it'll be interesting to see how everybody adjusts. But when you add what's number 1 and 2 from 2024 going into SEC in 2025, it's just insane because Tennessee was the 3 seed, weren't they? So now 1, 2, and 3 seeds will be SEC schools.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, that's crazy. Well, look at how many SEC schools made the tournament. The World Series. What was it? 5? Not counting. So who's the other team? You had Duke, and then you had Texas and OU were the 3. So the other were 5. Oh, and UCLA. So 4. So 6 of the 8. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So you had 3. So you're talking about 5 of the 8 would have been technically in the SEC if this was next year. So that makes it challenging. That makes it a challenging environment. My extreme knowledge of pitching, but as a fan watching this, and I'm curious to your thoughts. Like, do you agree? Looks like there's a lack of depth in the circle, right? For some teams, right? And it almost a little bit caught up with some teams. They almost felt like you had to ride a certain arm. I mean, are you seeing that? What's your thoughts? You being the observant pitching coach that you are, like how would you have managed this? Because it looks like there's not enough pitching, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you listen to broadcasts throughout the season, and everything's talking about, oh, we're moving into the age of the staff, and everyone's deeper in the circle. But then you get to crunch time, and it's like, are you really deeper in the circle? I think Missouri stuck to their plan as far as their staff. They had the closer who ended up setting the new record for NCAA of saves in a season, and that worked. And obviously, they just barely didn't make it. And I think Duke did a really good job. They used their 1 and 2, so I don't think they were short. They might have been short a 3 or 4 to be able to back the 1 and 2 up. But I laughed being on Longhorn Network all year. The question was, well, who is Texas's ace? And I was like, they don't have one, and they didn't. At different parts in season, somebody else was hot. We saw Gutierrez hotter. Kavan had some great moments in there. Mac Morgan, all of a sudden, when she got put back into starting, was very consistent. And so they get to postseason, and you don't have an ace. You don't have someone that everybody can just prepare for. But because it's spread out, they're fresh. And now you are seeing an emergence kind of an ace. I mean, Tegan Kavan has been absolutely amazing here. We can get to that in a little bit. But they truly use their staff and are still trying to use their staff. But when they have a hot hand, they go ahead and let it roll. But I think, you talk about Florida, you talk about Stanford, even Oklahoma State to a certain extent. And I know they had injury to their staff late in season, but you're talking about Kilfoyle trying to carry them. Kennedy, that was Kennedy's 3rd time seeing Texas this season. Like, you can't see an offense like that 3 times and keep them at bay. And then, by the end, even if Florida pulled it out yesterday, I don't know how Rothrock was going to have 2 to 3 more days in herself. Like, it's just a lot to put on an arm. And I know because I did it back in the day, and you have to try to gut it out mentally and emotionally. But especially if you're a power pitcher, that starts to, that's my benefit. I wasn't a power pitcher, so I could always throw it in there at a little bit of a lower speed. But if you're a power pitcher and your speed starts to wane from fatigue, then that's a whole different ballgame for you to have to adjust to. And so, yeah, I think, we're talking about pitching staffs, and early in the year, everyone wants to tout it, but I don't know if it's a lack of development in that staff throughout the year, or if it's just more of, as the season went on, were there deficits? Did somebody fall off? Obviously Ava Brown's from Texas, so that was the eye that I was like, why is she not in the circle more? Like, why is she, she went in against Texas, but that was the only time she threw in the World Series. And so, I think it's interesting that we want to tout depth early, but then when we get to crunch time, there's still
we get nervous. Yeah. Like even yesterday though, like, man, what Rothrock did to get to the point that she did yesterday. I know she probably feels terrible about the last, but I heard it in the broadcast. That was Jada Coleman's 9th time seeing her in 2 days. You ain't gonna let Jada Coleman see anybody 9 times. I don't care who it is. Jada Coleman's one of the best in the world. When she sees you by the 9th time, she's hitting you. Like in those big moments, you're probably gonna get a hit. And that's a tough environment and on top of that, Keegan was a freshman. So like just big kudos to them, but kudos to Florida to roll with 2 freshmen for the most of the year and get to the World Series and play as hard as they did and get to that spot. But it appeared, and Nyjah the same way, Nyjah just kept rolling out there, trying to keep people locked down and let their offense do it. And in some cases in Texas's case in that one, it was a 1-run game. It wasn't even like she made a bad pitch. It's just a play at the plate.
Right. And that's where I think, you have your pitchers that can do it, but it's like, do you really want to have to do that? Because if Stanford had a second arm they could trust, could that person have beat UCLA and then given Nyjah a break against Texas, or let Nyjah come to Texas fresh, or vice versa? Nyjah throw against UCLA, get them to Texas again, and now you have a different arm that you can throw at Texas that you trust. And I think that's the key. And it's hard. I get it. It's hard. You want to ride the horse that gets you there, and the horse is hot. But at some point, if you ride the horse too much, it's going to stop. It's going to want to go anymore, regardless of whether it has the willpower or not. So, it is interesting. But I also think, the 2 most complete staffs are still alive in Oklahoma City. But I mean, even then, Oklahoma's had to rely on Kelly Maxwell quite a bit. I mean,
Yeah. I
it's
thought it was interesting, Kat, that the way that Texas approached their game to get to the champ series versus how OU approached it, where OU looked like as they might have thrown off, if you want to call it that, not throwing Maxwell in that game, where Texas just basically said, we're coming back with Kavan. She had such big success against her. We're going to ride this and we're going to get there and get it done. It's what it looked like from a fan's perspective. I thought it was two interesting approaches and how they approached that. And Kelly, man, needed the day.
Yeah, Kelly needed the day, and I think the other part is, really if you look at it, game 2, Texas threw Mac Morgan, and so it gave on an off day. Then she can go back to Stanford because why not? She just one hit him the night, like 2 nights before. Right? So let's go back to Kuvan, and they know going if there was an if game, they have Mac Morgan, they have Citlali Gutierrez, who still is as fresh as can be, hasn't thrown a pitch.
Yeah.
They still have fresh arms, and I think that game 2 was key. The matchup of Mac Morgan with Florida, and you heard Mike White say it in the in-game interview. He saw that Florida didn't hit Kilfoyle well, so he said, "Well, let's roll with Mac. We need somebody ready. We have somebody ready." But heard that we're going to think that her down ball matches up well, and it did. So where OU went Maxwell games 1 and 2, so it's almost like that game 3 you had to give her a break, otherwise where else are you going to let her catch her breath? But
right.
It's been interesting because especially going into the year, I think a lot of OU fans, Nicole May was the heir apparent, the ace, the one they were going to rely on, and now at looking at Oklahoma City, if you didn't have Kelly Maxwell, what would you be doing?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Yeah, be real curious if they're in a position they're in now. So let's talk about the Texas OU matchup. That's kind of cool. I think this is what everybody expected. I think that if you'd have started, maybe not at the very beginning of the season, but you got about midway through the season, it looked like this was a collision of what this championship series probably would end up like, that everybody gave Texas just as good a chance as anybody to get there, and they expected OU to be there. What do you think? Take your Texas Longhorn shirt off and just talk crap about it. What you think from a just overall perspective of the matchup?
Well, going into the postseason, there were 3 teams that were top 10 in batting average and ERA, and 2 of those were Texas and OU. The third one was actually Southeastern Louisiana, who made some noise in their regional. But
who's really good. Like, if you haven't seen Southeastern Louisiana play, you should watch them because they're really good.
Yeah. So when you look at that alone, it's a matchup that on paper it's very equal. You have some more power numbers, but Texas is able to score runs in other ways. We talked about the pitching staffs and then the rivalry, and I think this is going into postseason. This is what everyone expected. This is what most softball fans wanted. If you're Texas OU fans, this is what they wanted, especially after the series went to Texas and then the Big 12 tournament went to OU. It's hard to even predict what the outcome's going to be because, again, you have the rivalry in play. So, like, that now makes it – there's an extra piece to it. But you're looking at 2 of the top pitching staffs and 2 of the top offenses going right at each other. And I think, obviously OU has the loss from the other day, and that always seems to motivate them some. And they went back and won it in extras yesterday. But at the same time, a little bit of vulnerability has been shown, right? Where Texas showed their vulnerability in supers, and they've been just on a course here at the World Series that just looks, basically saying, yeah, you guys think because we went toe-to-toe with A&M that we weren't a 1 seed, like, watch us work. It's fun to watch them work, but I think the one thing with OU that you can't ever take out of the equation is they just know how to win, and they definitely know how to play hard when their backs are against the wall. And that's something no matter how much you prepare, you can't beat. And on the flip side for Texas, they have to just go play softball. They're not playing OU. Like, have your game plan against said pitcher, but, like, take that we're playing OU out of it and just go play softball. Because so for Texas, it's almost like take the rivalry out, like match the energy, but take out the who and go play your game. And I think when they do that, because I don't know that we've really seen Texas play the complete game against OU this year, even though they won. Like they played really well on two facets of the ball, and those were wins that kept them in the game and allowed them to win it. But I don't think we saw a complete game the way we've seen them play against A&M, against Stanford, Florida, all of that here. So I think they're primed and ready. And I
Yeah.
can't, the homer in me wants to say we're bringing it home, but I can't. Like it's going to be good softball. It really is.
The crazy thing is just how good OU is at the winning process. They find a way to do all the things that teams that win championships do. And it could be a different person. Like even the other day, or yesterday, when Jada hits the home run, incredible. Before she hit the home run, I said if she throws it up in the zone, took home and she may hit her out, and then boom, she hits it out. But how cool was it to see Haji lace the double when they needed to run to tie? Just for that, and then Haji's role. Haji's come in as a defensive replacement, but she lives in that environment. I'm not shocked that she did it. It's cool to see someone who has not been their role. We need you to get on base and get to second base so we can score it and tie this game up.
Well, and I think the one thing OU never lacks is confidence. So, Jada Coleman can be 0 for 9 and maybe doubting herself a little bit, but her doubt doesn't supersede her confidence. And so, no matter what the score is, no matter what the situation, they believe in them. Like they believe in themselves, they believe in their teammates up there. So, and that comes from winning, right? The more you win, the more confident you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have losing teams that leave a ballpark feeling uber confident all the time. And so, I mean, their winning ways have obviously produced confidence to where even in crucial moments that they're still able to compete. But it's just going to be a
I think they also I don't know how to say it. It sounds not that they're entitled to win the championship. I think they think it's theirs. They're not they think they are the champs. And it's in the end, you got to take down the champ before anyone else is ever going to call someone else the champ. And when you have won it 3 years in a row and you're on the cusp of winning your fourth, you legit are walking the ballpark thinking, we're the champ. You're going to have to beat us. We're not going to beat ourselves. And I think Texas has the mindset, we're here to take down the champ. So that's a collision that doesn't always bring. Sometimes people are over their skis. They're like, maybe, hopefully this works out for us, right? They know they don't match up well. And if it goes well and we get some luck and all these, I don't think Texas is worried about luck. I don't think Texas is worried about any of those things. I think they're worried about nothing but let's go play this game because we think we can beat you. And OU's you can't beat us. We're the champ. So that's going to be a really big two things coming together and something's going to give for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, until you unseat the reigning champ, then they obviously have, they have the title and OU has the swag. So they do. They walk in with, a confidence and an air that, you have to be able to either block out or match. And I think that's the thing. This is figuring out how are you going to not let their energy and their attempts at gaining momentum, getting excited about, small things in the way they do. And that's what they do. They get a third out and it might be a routine out, but they get all excited to get themselves pumped up and try to gain the momentum. How are you going to keep yourself to where you keep your momentum and you keep yourself in the game and without playing outside of who you really are. And so, I just can't even imagine what we're going to see today.
I know it. That's why I canceled practice. I was like, no, I'm just canceling practice. Y'all need to go home and watch this. Go watch the best in the world. Get after it.
Why you have us start playing when postseason softball is still going on?
We don't have a choice, Cat. It's how it goes. Yeah, that's how it goes. But so let's talk about the fact that you coached with me with the Bombers. Let's talk about the fact that this is the Bomber podcast. There's 8 Bombers playing in the College World Series Championship Finals. And you coached almost every one of these kids with me. So how do you feel? How does it make you feel seeing this play out the way it is?
Oh, I mean, I'm proud. Obviously, got to spend that first year with that big group, and that's Haji and SJ and Caden, Goody, Sitlali, I don't think I forgot any of them in that group. But
I think you're good.
but just getting getting them to see them compete on our level and knowing they had what it took to compete at the next level. And now seeing them play, you see, like you mentioned, Haji coming in because Torres got hit in the head. So now she's playing every day when she hasn't been, but she's come up big, not just defensively, which is what they usually do for, but offensively. And, you and I know she can do offensively, but to see it come and, even Bracken, she's watching and she's like, well, I don't know that I want OU to win, but go Haji. Like,
Yeah.
It's
great.
Something good. So it's just fun to see them flourish on this stage because we've known that they're capable of it. And to see them continue to develop in their game, continue to maintain their confidence, continue to maintain their composure to where when they're put in the big situations, they're the one that's coming through. And we haven't been able to see Sitlali throw yet, but I have no doubt that once
I bet she pitches in this 3-game series at some point.
I think she's thrown 2 really good games against Oklahoma already this year. So I think that she will be used at some point, and her change of speeds is dramatic. But it's definitely kind of an ace in the hole for Texas. But I mean, then we have Caden, who's number 9 on SportsCenter Top 10 yesterday, and
she kind of good.
Yeah, it's just fun to see them reaching their potential, really, because we can have an athlete that leaves us that we think is the best in the world, but there's still pieces that have to be put together for them to reach it. And so, guys on the biggest stage and contributing even as youngsters is really cool. And then, I know you coach Mia Scott, and she's probably one of the best athletes that's freaking on right now.
She's playing really well right now, too. That's what's scary for people. She's playing really well.
Yeah, and I think and even that though, like you look at her offensive numbers are up, her stolen base numbers are down, but yet she's still contributing the way Mia Scott is, and because Reese Atwood has had such a great year and Katie Stewart's breaking windows, like I think people forgot that, Mia Scott's still really good.
She was so clutch in that series against A&M. Like every time Scotty came to the plate, there was something big on the line, and she just got it done. And I just watching her mature. The challenges we had with the immature Scotty that left us and where she's at today. And that's not slighting Scotty. She'll take. She couldn't remember where she had her stirrups behind her TV when she was a senior. But where Scotty's at today, she looks like a pro, man. Like when she's in there, nothing looks like it's too big for her. I think she's going to play a huge role in this series, obviously, but I think it's going to be a big deal. Scotty's going to do something big. That's just what she does when the moment says it. And the rest of them, we use, and this because I say this to them, like, practice being an All-American. Like, practice it now, because it's coming for you. And we preach it to our players all the time. What's coming for you, you're not ready for. I promise you yet. It's really cool to see all of them that were in the postseason, but to see this group get there and they look like they're ready. They're ready to play on the biggest stage for the biggest prize against the best teams on both sides in the country, in the world, at their age. There's nobody better in the world at their age playing softball than the 2 that'll play tonight. And they're ready for that. So it's really cool. I'm proud of them, proud of their parents, what their parents did to create this journey for them to get to this point. It's been really cool. So I'm sure you're the same way. You have to sometimes be a little unbiased. But at the same time, like I sat at the Texas A&M Texas series, I didn't get to clap for nobody. Like I literally got to just sit on my hands because I was afraid that somebody was going to say, "Oh, you're clapping for them." Like, it was cool going to the World Series, and I could be as loud as I wanted to be and yell for them. So I know you're excited seeing them get after it.
Oh yeah. And I think our girls on the other side know that my heart bleeds burnt orange. So while I love them,
they know. Yeah, they know. Yeah, they know that you don't have a choice. You're going to root for the Longhorns. That's the way it's going to be. But they know you root for them for them to be successful and play well, and they'll do well. So we're getting close. I told you I don't want to steal about 30 minutes of your time. We're over just a bit, but I wanted to give you a chance because I thought it was some exciting news that you guys broke yesterday. I think it's incredible for our sport. talk about the AUSL and the Athletes Unlimited Softball League. I'm guessing that's the acronym that is for it. But talk about that, because I think it was some big news. I think if people don't know about it, they need to hear about it.
Yeah, so Athletes Unlimited has committed to having a traditional model season. So, the straight 4 teams, 30 games. It's going to run from the end of May till I think mid-June, mid-July, and then there'll be a small break before that actually feeds into the typical Athletes Unlimited model of the championship season with the points and all of that. And so there's just a need in our sport for a traditional model that can go consistently, that can get the backing, that can be run to where every athlete in the league gets the same experience, and not same as an identical, but the same quality experience. I was part of the NPF for a long time, and I was very fortunate for most of my career. I was on the Pride and we were well taken care of, but I had friends and former teammates who were on other teams, and they were not anything close to well taken care of. Busing 13 hours when you should be flying, and if that bus breaks down, and then not having transportation where someone really expected them to walk 1.5 miles with their bat bags to a ballpark, and that's supposed to be a pro softball experience. Athletes Unlimited is committing to start with. It'll be, the idea is 4 teams. If obviously there gets to be an opportunity where it can be bigger come 2025, it will, but right now it looks like it'll be 4, and there won't be individual owners. AU is going to stay and be the entity that runs all 4 teams, so that way we guarantee the experience for all 4 teams is similar. 2025 will be a touring model, so they'll go 6 to 8 different cities, and then in 2026 it will be city based, where each team will be in a home city and they'll just travel for away games. And so it's a need in our sport. I think there are a lot of entities trying to do things. Would you like the interest in softball? But I think for the first time, Athletes Unlimited has proven that they can consistently run women's professional leagues, and there's financial backing behind it. And I think that's the one thing our leagues have always not had enough of, is we have a lot of interest in softball, but we don't have a lot of the financial. And right now AU has the financial and the ability to run the league. So yeah, we announced the launch of that. It'll start in 2025. It'll actually replace AUX. So that AUX season, that's like 2.5, 3 weeks, that'll no longer be in existence. They'll just do the traditional model. But the goal is that eventually it's 6, 8, 10, however many teams they can have. And so that's giving more girls an opportunity to play a traditional model. And then from there, top performers will get to go to the 60-person championship series. Because the way the champion season is set up, it's hard to expand it and for it to run the way it's supposed to run. So the top 60 will get to play in that, but hopefully we're able to give more than 60 females an opportunity to continue to play professional softball with the traditional model.
Yeah, that was what I was worried about when I was just watching like the draft, like when AU would do their draft. There were so many players that didn't get drafted that were so good, and you're thinking, man, what happens to her? Like, how does this work, right? And you have the pros that are already there; they're not willing to give up their spot in that. So it was almost like a tipping point, and so it's really cool to see AU step up and have some vision to creating a different process for this. 2, the thing I thought they did such a good job is to put you and Tosh and Jessica Mendoza on the advisory staff. You're getting 3 people who, without doubt, are some of the best to ever play the game, but all bring a different not experience is not what I mean. You bring a different path to this conversation. Jessica Mendoza's been involved in Major League Baseball. Like, she ought to be able to walk in a room and tell people that's not how it's done at Major League Baseball, right? And how is it done? We got JC back on the pod. Glad she's here. But like her input from that perspective, your input from having played as long as you did, Tasha's input from obviously being a pro and her international experience in Japan and those kind of things. I just think you brought the right people involved, got them involved on the very beginning of it, and that was smart on their part to do that. So it's really cool to see that that's going to materialize. I agree, JC.
JC loved meeting Natasha and Jessica yesterday. So
I think so. I would too if I was her.
I think the three of us, we talked yesterday. I had talked to Tosh about it beforehand, just when they approached her, because she hadn't really been a part of AU at all yet, except for that her foundation is one of the charity causes that a lot of the athletes play for. And so just talking to her about it, I was like, one, I believe in everything that John and Jonathan do, because as I said in my opening statement yesterday, anything successful in the world always sounded absolutely ridiculous to somebody at some point. And I thought the model of AU sounded absolutely insane when they first pitched it to me. And then I got into it and I was like, oh, this is actually like fun and creative. And, but I mean, I think you hit it on the head. They found three of us who have similar experiences. We all played on the Pride together, but
Right.
Tosh and Jess obviously has her foot indoors that, me and Tosh don't. And then I experienced both the best of the best in the NPF as well as a team that ended up having to fold. So what went wrong, what went right, and being able to really just tap into those experiences and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to make sure this experience is something, one, that everyone's happy with, but two, like, Tasha, what can we do so they don't have to leave and go to Japan. They want to stay home.
Dude, not to dig in the weeds too much with it, but I'm assuming financially it's going to be a better situation for players too that play in both of them, and they're going to make more money. Is I guess where I'm going with that. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think John and Jonathan said if they play both the traditional league and the AU Championship Series, they can get anywhere $45,000 to $75,000, and
that's cool. Yeah,
we're not talking millions and six figures, but at the same time, the time frame that you play in, that's good money, and I get it.
It's great money. Yeah,
I spent umpteen million years dedicating myself to training year round to stay ready for pro ball, so I understand it's a year round job. But you don't get paid for the parts that aren't putting butts in the seats,
Yeah.
And over time, hopefully it stretches to where, yes, we have more money coming in and those salaries can be raised. But yes, I think this is something, and it could go bigger. It depends on, whatever all the financials look like. But for now, it's definitely a situation where I feel like athletes may not have to go get a full-on full-time job to help with money. They might just do lessons in camps and really be able to just do lessons in camps now. I do this, and this. So it's exciting.
Well, I think anything. Yeah, it's great. I think anything that pushes the needle closer to those players who are the best in the world at what they do to being compensated at the level they should be. Anything that pushes that needle closer, albeit maybe it's a step. And there's a bunch of more steps probably still that need to be made. I think it's great, and so I'm a big fan already. And I've told you and I've had conversations that I think there's something about rooting for a team and rooting for that team over and over again, and having players that and that was my feeling about it. Having had some experience with the MPF and those kind of things, I know the challenges that exist there. What is clear is AU's figured out how to treat those girls like professionals. And I think that's the really cool part. So I'm expecting it to be first class. If it looks and feels like anything it looks that they've done so far, I think they'll be incredible. So I love the fact that they're going to own all four teams, right? That consistency does operate like that, because now you're going to have this team's not going to be way up here and this team's going to be way down here. Like that doesn't make sense for anybody. So I think that's really cool. So awesome stuff. Well, I know you're busy. JC's probably ready to go to Target again or whatever heck y'all going to do the rest of the day. You probably bought her 20 outfits at Target in last week. So
yeah, Grandma probably bought most of them, but we have
Grandma
a plethora of toys and everything else that have been bought.
Yes. Yeah, you need to spoil her because worth spoiling, no doubt. Well, Cat, thanks. I wanted to get you on here today before the games tonight and kick this around and have a conversation and talk softball. The postseason's wrapping up, and I think it's in and up. The sport's I don't think ever been better, and I think we're going to be in for a fun series. So I appreciate you taking the time to jump on here and talk about it. And maybe I'll see you Saturday if you're not celebrating and you can actually get to Plano. We're bringing the tournament closer to you, so maybe I'll see you Saturday.
This is now 22. The tournament was in Plano too, so I met you there.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
Joey's already called. Yeah, he's already called me about carrying a bag up there for you because you're running out of clothes to wear and stuff. So.
Well, yeah, I didn't pack my bomber clothes, and so we didn't bring you those. But.
I got some new stuff for you too, so you're good. You're gonna be good.
Perfect. Yeah. Hopefully, I'll see you. Well, if we can, I'll say if we can get it done in 2, I'll be happy to see you Friday.
Yes, for sure. Well, yeah, that'd even be better. So, all right, Kat, appreciate you. Y'all stay safe. Have fun tonight, and appreciate you jumping on here.
All right. Thanks.
You're listening to the Bomber Podcast.